Disclaimer: this story is a work of fiction inspired by real-life experiences and emotions. Names, places, and events have been changed to protect privacy and enhance storytelling. The story contains suspense, emotional tension, and mild adult themes. Reader discretion is advised. The rain had been relentless all afternoon, turning the narrow roads into rivers of mud and puddles that reflected the gray sky. I had been traveling with my friend, Maya, on our way back from a long weekend trip, expecting a quick stopover at a small hotel we had booked last minute. Little did we know, what should have been a simple overnight stay would turn into a night full of unease and suspense. As we finally turned onto the hotel's driveway, a sense of isolation hit me. The building stood alone amidst a row of trees, slightly weathered and old-fashioned, as if frozen in time. Its sign flickered intermittently, casting a dim glow across the wet parking lot. I parked the car, shivering in the chill of the evening, and grabbed our luggage. The air was heavy with the smell of rain and damp earth, and an odd silence surrounded the hotel, broken only by the patter of water on the roof and distant rumbling of thunder. Inside, the hotel lobby had an antique charm but carried a peculiar air. The receptionist greeted us warmly, but there was something almost mechanical about his smile. He handed us our key cards without a word, eyes briefly scanning our faces, leaving me with a subtle sense of unease. Maya, ever the optimist, tried to lighten the mood, joking about how quaint the place was. I forced a smile, but my instincts told me to stay alert. We headed to our room, navigating narrow hallways with creaky wooden floors that seemed to groan under our weight. The room itself was small, with old furniture and a faint musty smell. A single lamp illuminated the space, flickering occasionally, adding to the eerie atmosphere. I unpacked our things mechanically, my mind half on the room and half on the storm outside. Maya leaned against the window, staring out at the rain. "Looks like we're stuck here for the night," she said, a hint of worry in her voice. I nodded, unease settling deeper. The hotel felt strangely alive, the soft hum of the heating system, the distant clatter of something in the hallway, even the way the shadows danced across the walls. We tried to laugh it off, but the tension was palpable. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were not alone, that the hotel itself had a presence waiting to be noticed. Minutes turned into hours as we realized that leaving tonight was impossible. The storm had worsened, flooding the roads and cutting off any chance of a quick getaway. Trapped in the hotel, with the rain hammering against the windows and the old building creaking around us, I felt a chill run down my spine. It wasn't just the storm outside, it was the unknown that made me uneasy. And then, just as we were settling in, a soft knock echoed from the door down the hallway, startling us both. My heart jumped, and Maya froze beside me. That knock marked the beginning of a night we would never forget, a night where the hotel's quiet corners hid secrets, and the hours ahead would challenge our courage and sanity. The knock at the door had faded as quickly as it came, but the tension lingered in the air. Maya and I exchanged nervous glances, silently agreeing that neither of us wanted to investigate alone. I peeked out the peephole, but the hallway was empty, just dim light from the flickering corridor lamps and the faint sound of rain tapping against the windows. I told myself it was probably just another guest or perhaps even the wind playing tricks. But deep down, I felt a shiver crawl along my spine. Trying to shake off the unease, we decided to explore the room further. The furniture was outdated, wooden chairs with scratches that suggested years of use, a wardrobe that creaked ominously whenever I opened it, and a bedspread that smelled faintly of must and age. As we unpacked, we noticed small details that seemed slightly off: a picture frame hung crookedly, a chair positioned oddly in the corner, and a faint stain on the carpet that looked almost like a shadow from the dim light. It was subtle, but it made the atmosphere heavier, like the room was quietly observing us. Feeling restless, Maya suggested we go down to the lobby to grab some snacks from the vending machine. We stepped into the hallway, the floorboards groaning under each step. As we walked past other rooms, we noticed doors slightly ajar, the faint glow of light spilling out, but no one was visible. A cold draft brushed past us, carrying whispers that seemed almost too soft to hear. I could feel my heart rate pick up, and Maya squeezed my arm, whispering that she felt it too. At the lobby, we found the receptionist still at his desk, appearing engrossed in some paperwork. I tried to make small talk, asking about other guests and if the storm had caused any disruptions, but his answers were brief and almost evasive. His eyes flicked toward the hallway frequently, and the way he smiled seemed forced, almost rehearsed. Something about him didn't feel right, though I couldn't pinpoint exactly why. Maya suggested we just grab a bottle of water and return to our room, and I silently agreed. On our way back, I noticed a figure standing at the end of the hallway, partially obscured by the shadows. I froze, heart thudding, but when I blinked, it was gone. Maya noticed my stare and whispered, "Did you see that?" I nodded slowly, trying not to panic, and we hurried back to our room. The door clicked shut behind us, the sound strangely loud in the quiet hallway. As we settled back into the room, the storm outside intensified, the wind howling and rain lashing against the windows. I tried to focus on normal things, checking my phone, tidying our belongings, but every sound seemed amplified, every shadow slightly distorted. We laughed nervously at our own imagination, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the hotel held secrets beyond what the eye could see. Then, just as we began to calm down, there was another knock at the door, soft, deliberate, and almost inviting. Maya and I froze, realizing that the night was far from ordinary. Whoever or whatever was outside our door, the story of this hotel was only beginning to unfold. The second knock had left us both unsettled, and even though curiosity gnawed at me, I didn't want to open the door. Maya sat on the edge of the bed, her knees pulled to her chest, whispering, "Maybe it's just someone lost, or a prankster." I wanted to believe her, but every instinct screamed otherwise. The storm outside roared like a beast, rain slamming against the windows with relentless force, making the room feel smaller and more confining with each passing minute. We tried to distract ourselves, chatting quietly about mundane things, our trip, work, future plans, but the shadows in the room seemed to shift as we spoke. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind, every flicker of the lamp made me jump. I caught myself checking the corners of the room repeatedly, expecting to see something lurking there. Maya noticed and attempted to calm me, saying softly, "It's just the old building. Old hotels always make noises." Her voice was soothing, but even she looked uneasy. Around midnight, the storm seemed to peak. The wind howled so loudly it drowned out our thoughts, and the rain hammered against the windows like a drum. Then, without warning, the lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed the room, leaving us in complete blackness. My pulse spiked, and I could hear Maya's shaky breath beside me. We fumbled for our phones, using the flashlights to illuminate the room, but even the artificial light made the shadows seem longer, darker, more threatening. We heard it then, a soft scuffing sound outside our door, slow and deliberate. It wasn't the knocking anymore, it was something moving, scraping against the wooden floor. I swallowed hard, straining my ears, but couldn't tell if it was real or just my imagination. Maya gripped my arm, whispering, "Someone's out there." The thought made my stomach twist. Fear mingled with disbelief. We had no way to call for help. The storm had cut off any signal, leaving us isolated, trapped in a strange hotel with an unknown presence. Trying to calm ourselves, we huddled together on the bed, listening intently. There was a faint murmur, like distant whispers, carried by the wind. I considered opening the door to confront whoever or whatever was there, but the idea was terrifying. Each passing minute stretched into eternity. My mind ran through every possible explanation, another guest, hotel staff, or even a prank. But nothing felt right. The darkness pressed in, heavy and suffocating, and every sound felt amplified, echoing through the hallways. Hours seemed to crawl by. Occasionally, the lamp would flicker back to life for a brief moment, casting a weak yellow glow across the room, and the shadows would retreat momentarily, only to return with the next gust of wind. Sleep was impossible. The storm, the darkness, the strange noises, they combined into a relentless anxiety that made the night feel endless. Finally, just before dawn, the noises subsided, replaced by the soft, steady patter of the rain and distant thunder. But the tension didn't leave us. We had survived the first night, but the hotel had revealed itself as a place that was anything but ordinary. We knew that the remaining hours of darkness held more secrets, and the sense of being watched lingered like a shadow we could not shake. Morning came, but it brought little relief. The storm had slowed, leaving only a persistent drizzle and foggy air that made the hotel feel even more isolated. Sunlight struggled through the heavy clouds, casting muted shadows across the hallways, but the atmosphere was far from comforting. The previous night's tension still clung to us like a heavy blanket. Maya and I cautiously stepped out of our room, determined to make sense of the strange events, yet every creak of the floorboards reminded us that the hotel was far from ordinary. As we explored, we noticed small, inexplicable things. A chair we were certain we had placed near the bed was now in the middle of the room. Papers on the desk had shifted as if someone had rifled through them. Even the smell of the room felt different, an odd mix of damp earth, old wood, and something faintly metallic. I tried to rationalize it. Perhaps the storm had caused drafts, maybe the staff had come in while we slept. Yet, each explanation seemed insufficient, leaving an unsettling sense that we were being watched. We ventured further down the hall, the building creaking and moaning with every step. The doors we had passed the night before now appeared warped, slightly misaligned in their frames, and some of them seemed to shimmer under the weak light. Occasionally, we would catch a movement at the corner of our eyes, a shadow darting, or a fleeting glimpse of someone standing at the end of the hallway. But when we turned fully, there was nothing. The hotel was playing tricks on us, or perhaps there was something more sinister at play. By mid-morning, we tried to reach out for help. Phones still had no signal, and even the landline in the lobby seemed dead. The front desk was empty, save for a faint echo of footsteps somewhere deeper in the building. We called out, but the responses were distant, muffled, almost as if the walls themselves absorbed our voices. Anxiety began to rise again, the claustrophobia of isolation setting in. Every hallway felt like a labyrinth, each corner potentially hiding something unknown. In an effort to make sense of it all, I decided to investigate the lower floors. Maya hesitated, but my insistence overpowered her fear. As we descended the staircase, I noticed faint whispers that seemed carried through the walls, words I couldn't understand. The lower hallway was darker, damp patches on the floor reflecting the dim ceiling lights. We found a small, abandoned lounge, furniture covered in dusty sheets. On a table lay an old, open journal, its pages yellowed and brittle. Scrawled in hurried handwriting were cryptic notes about guests who had felt watched and unseen presences in the hotel. My stomach churned. We were not imagining things. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the far end of the hall, startling us. The journal slipped from my hands, and we froze. The sound came again, heavy, deliberate, like a door slamming shut somewhere deep within the building. Maya grabbed my arm, whispering in panic, "We need to go back." Reluctantly, we hurried upstairs, each step echoing ominously. The sense of being observed, of something lurking just beyond sight, made our hearts pound in unison. By the time we returned to our room, the hotel had transformed from a temporary stopover into a place of uncertainty and fear. The day ahead promised answers, or perhaps more mysteries, but one thing was certain. The hotel was alive with secrets, and the night's strange events were only the beginning. The tension from the previous night lingered like a shadow, following us even in the dim daylight seeping through the curtains. Maya and I knew we couldn't just sit in the room anymore. Something about the hotel demanded exploration, answers, or at least some understanding of what we were dealing with. We gathered our courage, took a deep breath, and stepped out into the hallway once again, the air thick with dampness and an odd, metallic scent that seemed to intensify with every step. As we moved cautiously toward the lower floors, we noticed doors that had seemed ordinary before now slightly warped or ajar, inviting curiosity yet radiating unease. My flashlight cut through the dim corridors, revealing peeling wallpaper and old portraits whose eyes seemed to follow our movements. Each frame, each shadow, heightened our sense that we were intruding into a place with its own rules, one that didn't appreciate being disturbed. We reached the lounge we had glimpsed the day before. Dusty sheets covered the furniture, and the air was heavy with the smell of mildew. The journal lay on the table, pages fluttering slightly as if stirred by an unseen breeze. I picked it up again, scanning the cryptic notes, mentions of unseen watchers, strange occurrences, and guests who never spoke of what they saw. A chill ran down my spine. The hotel had a history, one that was whispered about, but rarely acknowledged. Our curiosity pushed us further. We moved down another corridor, noticing how the building seemed to twist and elongate unnaturally. Faint sounds, footsteps, whispers, distant knocks echoed around us, but we saw no one. Maya clutched my arm tightly, her fear palpable, yet we pressed on, drawn by a need to confront whatever was causing this strange tension. Then, unexpectedly, we encountered an elderly hotel staff member who appeared from one of the shadowy hallways. His expression was neutral, but his eyes held a depth of knowledge that unsettled me. When we asked about the noises, the strange movements, and the journal, he merely smiled faintly and said, "This hotel has seen many storms, both outside and inside. Some nights, it remembers its guests. Others, it plays tricks. You felt it, haven't you?" His words were cryptic, almost taunting, yet hinted at a truth we couldn't fully grasp. As he walked away, the whispering grew louder, and we felt compelled to move even deeper into the building. Each step was calculated, careful, as if we were navigating a maze designed to confuse and trap. The hotel seemed alive, doors closing behind us and opening ahead, hallways stretching further than logic allowed. Fear mingled with determination. We needed answers, or at least a sense of control over our own night. Finally, at the far end of a long hallway, we found a small room that appeared abandoned for decades. Old photographs littered the floor, showing guests from years past, their faces eerily familiar yet strange. One photo, in particular, made me stop. It depicted a group of people who looked almost like us, huddled in fear during a storm. The realization hit me. The hotel had a story, a memory of past guests trapped in uncertainty, much like we were now. As we stepped back into the hallway, the doors slammed shut behind us with a deafening force. Panic surged, but we knew one thing: the night was far from over, and, to survive, we had to face whatever this hotel had in store. Night had fallen again, heavier and darker than before, as if the storm had returned only in spirit. The hotel seemed almost alive, breathing around us with every creak of the floorboards and whisper of the wind. Maya and I had retreated to our room after the afternoon exploration, but neither of us could sleep. Every shadow seemed to shift in the corners of our eyes. Every distant sound made our hearts pound. Something was waiting, and we knew we would soon confront it. Around midnight, a low, deliberate knock echoed from our door. Unlike the previous knocks, this one had a rhythm, almost measured, commanding attention. Maya grabbed my hand, trembling. "We can't ignore it this time," she whispered. Hesitation battled fear inside me, but curiosity and the desire for answers outweighed caution. Slowly, I opened the door, flashlight in hand, and peered into the dim hallway. At first, it appeared empty. The hall stretched before us, shrouded in darkness, shadows twisting unnaturally. Then, a figure emerged from the gloom, a man, tall, with features partially obscured by the flickering light. My pulse quickened as he stepped closer, yet there was no aggression in his movements. He simply stood there, silently observing, almost testing us. Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached out and handed me a small envelope. Confused and cautious, I took it. Inside was a note, written hastily. "Not everything is what it seems. Trust no one but yourselves. The hotel remembers." Before I could question him further, he vanished, leaving only a faint scent of damp wood and something metallic in the air. Maya and I looked at each other, our fear momentarily replaced with disbelief. It was a warning, a puzzle, and an unsettling confirmation that the hotel held memories, or perhaps secrets, beyond our understanding. We decided to investigate immediately, venturing out into the hallways again. the building seemed to react to our movements. Doors we had passed countless times before were now locked, others slightly ajar, inviting us forward. We followed instinct more than logic, driven by the need to understand the strange encounter. In a small room near the end of the corridor, we discovered remnants of past visitors, old luggage, dusty clothing, photographs, and more journals scattered across a table. Each journal told stories of confusion, fear, and unexplained phenomena, guests trapped by circumstances beyond their control, haunted by the hotel's eerie presence. As we read, it became clear that the man who had delivered the note was likely part of the hotel's past, a lingering spirit or an enigmatic keeper guiding us toward understanding. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the floor above, making us both jump. The hotel's walls vibrated with the sound, as if expressing frustration or warning. We realized then that the night was not over, and the confrontation wasn't just about a single figure. It was about the entire building, its secrets, and the test it posed to those who stayed within. Shaken but determined, we returned to our room, the note clutched tightly in my hand. The encounter had given us insight, but no resolution. The night stretched on, filled with anticipation, fear, and the unshakable sense that the hotel had more to reveal before dawn. The first light of dawn filtered weakly through the rain-streaked windows, casting a pale, gray glow over the hotel room. After the harrowing night, Maya and I were exhausted but relieved that the storm seemed to have passed. The eerie tension that had gripped the building for hours had faded slightly, replaced by a quiet stillness that felt almost surreal. Yet, beneath the calm, a lingering sense of mystery remained. We cautiously stepped into the hallway, expecting the familiar creaks and shadows, but everything was different in the daylight. The corridors appeared ordinary, almost mundane, yet the memories of the night clung to us like shadows we couldn't shake. The strange knocks, the shifting furniture, the fleeting figure, all of it had been real, and now the question was why. We decided to speak with the receptionist, hoping for some clarity. He greeted us with the same polite smile, but there was an unspoken acknowledgement in his eyes, as if he had been expecting our survival. "You've seen it, haven't you?" he asked quietly. When we nodded, he led us to a small common room and shared a story about the hotel's history. According to him, the hotel had stood for nearly a century, built on a location where storms and isolation often trapped travelers. Many guests over the years reported strange occurrences, shadows that moved on their own, whispers in the halls, objects shifting mysteriously. Some left abruptly, others stayed, recounting stories that blurred the line between reality and imagination. The hotel itself seemed to remember these events, a lingering energy from past visitors intertwined with the building's walls and rooms. As we absorbed the story, a mixture of fear and fascination filled us. The events of the previous night made sense in a way. They were not random, nor entirely supernatural, but tied to the history and collective memories of the hotel. The mysterious figure who had delivered the note was likely a symbolic presence, a reminder that the hotel's past could intrude upon the present, challenging anyone who stayed within its walls. We returned to our room to pack, the morning light offering a sense of normalcy, yet the strange atmosphere of the hotel lingered. Even as we prepared to leave, subtle reminders persisted, the slightly crooked picture frames, the faint metallic scent, and a lingering chill in the air. It was as if the hotel was acknowledging our departure while keeping its secrets intact, a silent guardian of its own enigmatic story. Stepping outside, the fresh air and soft drizzle felt liberating. We walked to our car, glancing back at the building that had tested our courage, curiosity, and resilience. The night had been terrifying, but it had also brought a sense of awe and an unspoken respect for the hotel's mysterious nature. We knew we had survived something rare, an experience that would remain with us forever. As we drove away, the hotel slowly receded from view, cloaked in fog and rain. Yet, in my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that the building had more to reveal to future travelers. For us, the experience was over, but the hotel's story, its secrets, its memories, its mysterious presence, would continue to haunt, fascinate, and bewilder those who dared to stay within its walls. Back home, the world felt ordinary, almost mundane after the surreal experience at the hotel. Yet, every time I closed my eyes, memories of the night replayed vividly: the flickering lights, the shadows moving in the hallways, the mysterious knocks, and the figure that handed me the cryptic note. Maya and I didn't speak much about it at first. Words felt inadequate to describe what we had witnessed. The experience had shaken us, but it had also bonded us in a way nothing else could. Over the next few days, I found myself reflecting on the events with a mixture of awe and unease. Was it supernatural, psychological, or just the combined effect of fear and isolation? The hotel's history, as the receptionist had told us, hinted at both. Guests who came before us had left stories behind, echoing through the walls, influencing the atmosphere, creating a space where reality and imagination intertwined. It was a place that demanded attention, respect, and caution. Maya and I laughed nervously when recounting the story to friends, leaving out the parts that were too bizarre or frightening. Yet, deep down, we knew that the hotel's presence had changed us. We were more aware of our surroundings, more attuned to the subtle cues in an environment, and, unexpectedly, more grateful for each other's calm and support during moments of fear. We had survived the night together, and that shared ordeal forged a bond that went beyond friendship. Even weeks later, I would occasionally dream of the hotel, the narrow hallways stretching endlessly, the distant whispers, the mysterious figure waiting at the end of a corridor. Sometimes it felt like the hotel was alive in my memory, its stories lingering, refusing to be forgotten. I realized then that part of the hotel's purpose was not just to frighten, but to leave an imprint, a lesson in courage, awareness, and the unknown. Looking back, I understood the true nature of our ordeal. It wasn't just about being trapped by the storm or isolated from the outside world. It was about confronting fear, facing the unknown, and learning to navigate it together. The night had tested our limits, revealing hidden strengths, resilience, and the importance of trust. In a strange way, it was transformative. And yet, despite our rational explanations and reflections, a small part of me always wondered, was everything we experienced merely coincidence, or had the hotel truly remembered us, observed us, and left us with a story to carry forever? The question remained unanswered, leaving a subtle thrill and unease whenever I thought about it. The hotel, now far behind us, had become a symbol, a reminder that some places hold more than walls and rooms. They hold memories, echoes of the past, and mysteries that challenge the present. For Maya and me, that night was a chapter of fear, revelation, and growth, and although it was over, the story of that hotel would stay with us always, a haunting yet unforgettable part of our lives. 16.